All right. I'm back. We're still alive. And I don't even know what time is it here. I think it is 10 o'clock in the morning here where we are. And what time is it at home? It's completely right off the chart. Hold on a minute. I'll type in Vancouver time. Vancouver time. Hold on. So right now it is 7 o'clock, 7 p.m. 7 p.m.? Yeah, 7 p.m. at home. And it is not even 10 o'clock in the morning here where we are, so we're definitely a little off of our internal clocks. 16, 17 hours to get here one way. A little frazzled for sure. And thankful to get here in one piece and healthy. I know that plane crashes are kind of random, but you know what? When there's 3 in one day, the day before you leave, I don't care who you are, you're going to be thinking about it, right? So here we are. Sarah's beside the pool. And I'm definitely not going to be able to sleep for a bit, and I'm not going to get scorched from that sun. So anyway, I'm going to share some emails. That's what I'm going to do, because I enjoy doing it. It's got to be done. And I don't know what to do with myself right now, to be honest. It takes a few days to get climatized to the time change. So let's get into it. I'm going to hopefully put some B-roll in here for everybody to watch. Outdoorsy stuff, maybe. This email is titled, Additional Pieces. Hello, Steve. I've been watching both your YouTube channels for several months now. I'm not searching for new information. I'm just captivated by watching you grow in your search for the truth. Oh. Many people give their opinions on what these people are. Some good, some not so much. Your latest one today had some good advice. What the F is going on in this crazy video was the name. First off, President Trump has promised to release new technology information that has been withheld from us as soon as he steps in office. Second, one of your contributors mentioned the Bible as a reliable source of not only historical information but future events. Very good advice. Third, in Revelation, the last book of the Bible, a prophetic view of the end times, chapter 6, verse 8, there is a mentioned widespread death by sword, hunger, death, and by the beasts of the earth, bracket Sasquatch, question mark, end bracket. For now they are being restrained, but a time is coming when the restrainer will be removed. We don't want to be here when that happens. In Genesis, it talks about the fallen angels mating with human women, producing half human, half eternal super beings. They were constantly evil, hence the great flood. Jesus also said there would be a time in the future when this would repeat. It's worth checking this out. He also mentioned their ability to create emotions in us. You might want to check out the fear frequency they use in movies to create a sense of fear in the audience. Our government uses this as a weapon as well. And lastly, I suspect they not only project emotions to control us, they feed on it, especially fear. The major message in the Bible is, do not fear. Thank you for letting me share. I hope this message is a confirmation to you of what you already know and hopefully help you stay on the path of truth. God bless you on your journey. I'm sure 2025 will be a year of big revelations. Thank you for all you do to encourage and comfort others. Truth is healing. Sincerely, Bonnie McDonald. Bonnie, appreciate the share. And just a side note for everybody listening, we've had basically that exact same email sent in. I don't know how many times, and I'm not being rude, I'm just saying. We've had that same message delivered here in this channel. I've read it almost every time, probably about 100 times maybe. But it's all in kindness. And it's all in kindness and caring about each other, so that's a good thing. But just so you guys know, we've had that one emailed a lot, and we'll see what happens, right? We'll see what's coming. I haven't heard about the energy thing with Trump, but it'll be interesting if it comes. Experiences is the title of this next email. Hi, Steve. Let me first express how much I truly appreciate your YouTube channel, and I look forward to the podcast when it's released. Okay, this is going to be an older one, possibly. I'm writing this in hopes of you not reading on your channel. Huh? More to get your intake on my situation. Consequently, it will be a bit long-winded. I know you're a very busy guy, but hopefully you can find the time to have a read. I did see. Well, you didn't say not to read it, right? I won't read this. Let me cut some of this out. Okay, you're apprehensive about saying who you are, so I'm going to leave out these clues of where you live. Well, what you do anyways. I'm based in Anchorage, Alaska, and I live about 60 miles north of the city. We have a saying in Alaska, Anchorage is not Alaska, but you can see it from there. I hate the big city, although I am flying trips around the world for about 12 days a month the majority of the time. I am in the bush either trapping, hunting, or fishing in Alaska. I grew up in the woods, and probably will never change. Yeah, I've been to Anchorage a few times. You definitely can see Alaska from there for sure. The last year, I purchased a property that is approximately a 25-mile boat ride out of Seward, Alaska, with the intent of building a cabin. It is 4 acres of pristine ocean front land that has a national forest to the left of it, and to the right of it, nobody can build because their properties have sheer cliffs. Needless to say, it's definitely remote. And on April 24th of this year, I went out to the property to begin clearing trees and figuring out exactly where the cabin was going to sit. I had a good friend of mine with me, and he's also, I won't say what he does, but he works with you. The trip is to be an overnight, just to get my mooring set up, drag my skiff out, figure out property lines, and clear the area where the cabin was going to sit. We had about 4-foot seas on the way out and had to take it slow so I didn't swamp my skiff. It was loaded with tools/materials, so by the time we arrived, it was early afternoon. So we decided just to find the pins on the back of the property and to figure out where the cabin would be. We did just that and ended up back out of my boat where we planned to sleep at about 7 p.m. The next morning we had a breakfast on the boat and then took the skiff Took the skiff to shore to start clearing. We've been running chainsaws for about an hour to an hour and a half when we took a break to sharpen the chainsaws and refuel, etc. My property is located about 350 yards from the head of the bay, and we were right where the alders ended, and the beach began taking care of business. We suddenly heard what we can only be described as a scream. It was unlike anything I've ever heard before or since. It is my experience being an outdoorsman that when I make noises, the animals tend to move away from me and not toward me. This thing traveled about 100 to 150 yards closer to us and screamed a second time. My friend who is with me is not an outdoorsman and asked me what it was, and I could only respond with, I have no effing idea. About 30 seconds later, it traveled another 100 yards or so closer to us. It roared, or sounded like something between a T-Rex and a lion. It was unsettling despite us both being armed. I do not get fearful when I'm in the bush. I've been stalked twice by brown bears, and I normally feel comfortable with my 50 cal strapped to the front of me. We had about another 10 minutes of finishing up with the saws when my buddy picked up his to walk back to the property. And as soon as he turned and started walking, I had picked up my saw and I was still facing the water. A rock about the size of a football went in the water halfway out to my big boat, which was moored about 150 feet from shore. I understood where the rock came from, I saw the last portion of its flight, however, and saw the impact on the water. At that point, my initial suspicion, based on the screams in the roar, became somewhat realized. Later, while we were both stacking wood with the saws turned off, my buddy heard a whistle. I never heard it because I flew helicopters in the Army and I have significant hearing loss. And later, while relaxing, prior to heading back to the big boat, we both heard a wood knock. It sounded like a hollow baseball bat hitting something. The only way to describe it. Every trip since then that we go out there to work on the cabin, something happens. When we were sleeping on my big boat before the cabin was ready, every time we would return to the boat for the evening, we would hear that same wood knock from 2 adjacent hills. It was almost without fail, and I would even bet people who were with me, that it would happen. We have heard chatter, and we've heard that sound like human voices where you cannot understand what they're saying. We've had rocks thrown at the building while we were in it. We have, of course, heard more wood knocks, what sounded like mouth pops. We had a piece of plywood that was blocking our only entrance in the back of the cabin get shoved in at 1:30 in the morning while we were sleeping in it. It had a 50-pound cooler against it just to keep the bears out. We've had slabs on the side of the building which are epic. Oh, I think he meant slaps on the side of the building which are epic, followed by voices at 2:15 in the morning. We also wake up to the sound of something hitting my deck on 2 occasions just after the lights are out. One was what we presumed to be a rock skipping across the deck. In the second was a log bolt that I had stored beneath the cabin in a box. What? Oh, a lag bolt, sorry. One was what we presumed to be a rock skipping across the deck. And in the second was a lag bolt that I had stored beneath the cabin in a box. It was not there before we went to bed because my helper swept the entire deck while I made us dinner at the end of the day that evening. Just too much to describe. I put an audio recorder out there, and I have recordings that were made while we were... I have recordings that were made while we were not there for over a week. There were at least 5 slaps in the building during that time, as well as voices. It sounds like a giant hand just railing the shit out of the side of the building. At any rate, I know you're a busy guy. I have pictures of tracks and lots of audio I'm happy to share, but I really don't want them shared further than you. If you're interested, let me know. I know you're a busy guy, and thanks for taking the time to read if you make it this far. I could have gone into a lot more detail and made it 10 times longer, but I know you're busy. Okay, man, I gotcha. I hope you're still here listening, and I don't know, I don't recall you sharing that with me. I guess you could if you wanted to, but you know, I've heard all the sounds. I know what's making them. I've seen what makes the sounds. I'm sure there would be a lot of people that might be interested here to listen to it, though. So if you're still hanging out, feel free or not. But I appreciate the email, and we'll see if anybody else around the same area may be listening. I'm sure they are. And you know as well as I do, that area you are in, it's a hotbed. The whole west coast of frickin' North America is on fire with activity from these people. Right? It's a lot going on. I'd be interested to hear what's happened since he first emailed us. Thanks for that email, man. All right, this next email is titled, hold on, How to Find the Truth. All right, I'm all ears. I am a retired law enforcement officer that obtained the rank of lieutenant. I held several positions, including gang investigations and internal affairs. I've attended interview and interrogation training. I have attended interview and interrogation training. I give these qualifications to show that I actually know some things. First and foremost, go into an investigation to prove innocence. That way, if the facts prove the charge, it is unbiased and a true investigation. All right, so first and foremost, go into an investigation to prove innocence. In the case of Bigfoot, investigate to disprove the existence. That way the facts speak for themselves and are not influenced by any preconceived notion. Questions for any and all investigations. Who, what, when, where, and how. Think cause and effect. If someone tells you a story of an encounter, think cause and effect. The encounter did what? What was the causation of the encounter? What was the effect of the encounter? Is the person telling the story hoping for something, notoriety or monetary gain? Do they want sympathy or to bolster their ego? Who? Who was involved? Can this story be verified by anyone else? What? What occurred? The devil is in the details. When? When did it occur? Time of day and location. Where? Where did it occur? Exact location. How? How did the encounter occur? What was the person doing? What was the creature doing? Response of each. Why? Why was the observer there and at that time? Do not ask a question that you don't already know or suspect the answer to. If the answer to a question If the answer to a question throws you, show no emotion or surprise. Maintain control of the interview. If need be, take a break to regain your thoughts and direction. If you do not take a break, do not attack the answer. Come back to the surprise answer later and try to lead up to it and see if the answer stays the same or changes. Take notes. If possible, record. Over a period of time, after many encounter narratives, some similarities should emerge. If the observer changes details when retelling their encounter, pay attention to the change of details. This does not automatically mean they are lying or not telling the truth. It may simply mean that they may have been greatly traumatized by the encounter and upon retelling suddenly remember new details. Give them a break and at another time have them retell you again. Again, pay attention to the details. Details like wind or no wind, sunny, overcast, misty, foggy, rainy, snowy. If there's a great change in details, then quite possibly the story is fabricated. If initially there are way too many details, again, do not think that the person is not telling the truth. Too many details can be a flag, but not necessarily. Different people observe differently and recall differently. I am gifted with a photographic memory, so I absorb great detail. Having been through much drama and trauma in my life and career, my mind accelerates and slows everything around me, allowing me to notice great detail. Being a professional hunter, you should understand what I will say next. An in-tune hunter has connected with their primal instincts and becomes an apex predator. You notice things that mean much, but most clients do not even notice. Shift in wind direction, wind speed, slight change in temperature, normal sounds, abnormal sounds, the absence of sounds. Everyone is different and therefore recalls differently. This brings me to the cause and effect. In the case of Bigfoot over time and many true encounter stories, you will see patterns. These patterns may help you to find and or avoid encounters, the creature's actions, movements, responses to the encounter. Finally, do I believe? I most certainly do not disbelieve. Too many encounters that have altered the observer's permanent behavior. Too many great woodsmen that I have personally known that no longer hunt, fish, or go into the woods and refuse to speak of why. I've yet to see one, but I have 2 times had things happen that are unexplainable. Do I think they are benevolent? Don't know. Do I think they are capable of doing harm? Abso-freaking-lutely. There are many disappearances that are close to sightings. The creature is between 7 and 9 feet tall and can snap trees. They possess great strength and power. Do I wish to encounter one? Not if I can help it, but at the same time I'm genuinely curious. End of email. That's a great email. I've tidbits of little knowledge for all of us here. Appreciate that big time, that share. Very interesting. Straight from our Mr. Law Enforcement's mind. Appreciate it big time. And there you go. Take from what you will, leave it, you guys, right? I have a feeling we have a lot of law enforcement here. We got a lot of everything here, actually. What am I saying? We got everybody here. The whole planet's here. Doesn't matter what you do at this stage of the game. We're all seeking the same thing, trying to figure out what the F is going on. This is titled Story, capital P, capital A. All right. Enjoy your videos and your point-blank stance on what you believe in. I also like that you do not criticize people searching for answers. All right. Appreciate the kind words. I can't claim that I know the existence of a Sasquatch being to be true, but I can't rule it out either. What I do know is after my few experiences, I began mentioning what happened to me to a few trusted people, and to my astonishment, they too had stories. Yeah, it's funny how that works, huh? After years now, I think 8, I'm known in my tight circle as someone that can seriously listen. I'm known in my tight circle as someone that actually seriously listens to what people have experienced when it comes to these outdoor situations. And what is amazing is I have basically strangers that know my tight circle of friends calling me and opening up because I do take them serious and not laugh at them. I can take this stance because of what happened to me, change my viewpoint, and open my mind to acknowledge the fact that although I have been an outdoorsman my whole life, nature always has its secrets, its unknown. I watch and have watched many Sasquatch shows, and most don't come close to being serious. And that's a shame, because the more real-life stories I hear from genuine, honest people, I know something is out there. What I don't exactly know is what it is. Yeah, agreed. I think one of the main things, one of the biggest effects that the TV shows have had is keeping everyone going in a circle and smirking. That's about it. I could go on and on, but I'll just tell you the 2 stories in this email that happened to me in particular that got me interested in this topic. I think I heard what your email account was on your video. If it clears and is legit, I can send a picture of a print I found when hiking up in the Sequoia Kings Canyon, NP, in California. I'm still not sure if it's just a fluke, but you never know. I've never shared the pic with anyone except the family members. They were there with me on the hike. We went off trail because of the snow and redundant switchbacks, and I stumbled upon it. We're about 9K elevation on a common hiking trail, except like I mentioned, instead of following the trail, we went straight up to get to the lookout. Anyhow, my 2 stories. I hunted the same 150-acre tract for many years at this point. There usually was 5 of us guys in an old construction trailer used as a makeshift hunting camp. The camp rested next to a good-sized creek that we had to four-wheel drive our trucks to get down there from an old dirt road. The first 4 years we had no electricity, but in the later years we were getting older and spending more time BS in the camp. Probably meant more time BSing in the camp, so we did get electricity hooked up. I was the youngest of the bunch. The ages range from mid-20s to the 60s. The occurrences all happened in 1 year out of the 10 years I was in this hunting group. Take note of that, right? How familiar is that? Right? Remember we mentioned before how many times been rural properties handed down and never nothing, and then all of a sudden, boom, in your face. There's something standing looking in the window. Excited. It was the good time of the year to be in the woods, so I arrived a day early, and the only other guy at camp was the oldest member, who was a retired state wildlife employee. The night was uneventful, and we just talked tactics for the morning hunt. Nothing better than camp talk. I got up early. The rut was about to begin, or already did, and I wanted to get to my stand early because in Pennsylvania, it's a small window when the mature bucks get dumb and act not rational. I decided I was going to go to a stand that was not very far from our camp. I set out in pitch black and arrived at my stand and quietly climbed the tree stand. This spot was perched on a hill that looked down at the creek. And during the rut, the bucks had always ran this bottom, day and night, and I was looking forward to the hunt. And in the distance, I can see my buddy walking with his headlamp on. He was going to a tree stand down in the ravine next to the creek. So we basically were about 150 yards away. And this was our tree. So we wanted to make sure we had both sides of the creek covered, and 150 yards was a good gap between us. Since it was still dark, I had nothing else to look at except his headlamp slowly walking to his stand. And I've watched him do this walk many times when we did this setup. However, this time something happened. Out of the stillness of the morning air, I heard this loud donk, donk, donk. I don't know what word to use. It sounded almost like a wooden bat being hit on something. However, it's 5:30 in the morning, and it's just my buddy and I for a good distance. I looked down towards my friend because the noise came from the ravine area. He had stopped in his tracks. This for sure told me he heard it too. And then he began walking again, and I continued to watch him and thought, who knows, it's the woods and it's dark, it could be anything. And just then, a louder, but only 2 times, donk, donk, echoed in the ravine. My friend, who was the oldest member, picked up his pace rather quickly. All I can see was his headlamp going up and down as he jogged, aka run through the dark woods. He arrived to his stand because I know the general location, hunted it myself before. Usually his routine is, hooks his bow to the pull string and then shuts off the light and goes up the stand. Some time to clip his arrow, he will quickly turn his light back on for a second, but then off again. But this time when he arrived at the tree stand, he never stopped the pace and went right up it, and never once shut off the headlamp. I could see him very quickly moving his head side to side, probably scanning his surroundings. Funny thing was, my glasses started to fog for no apparent reason. My heart rate was up. I'm not going to lie, it was strange. And after time passed, it became light. And although he was only about 150 yards, I couldn't distinguish him from all the wild bush that lined the creek bed. So I didn't know if he ever got down and headed back to camp or not. And finally, around 10 a.m., I walked back to camp, and as I opened the door, he pounced with a loud voice. What was that? I was too excited to get back to talk to him about it, and we went over exactly what we heard. I too was excited to get back to talk to him about it, and we went over exactly what we heard. I can't explain just how deep and powerful the noise was, but it was impressive. He continued to mention that something large crashed through the brush right after the second round of noises we heard, which then his fight or flight instincts kicked in, and he chose flight. Rest of the way was somewhat nerve-wracking because he hunted basically 50 years, and myself almost 20, and nothing like what we heard was heard before. Soon the rut was back on our minds, and we went on with our weekend of hunts, but we both didn't feel comfortable, and it seemed amazing. We would get back to camp that weekend, always just before dark, instead of coming back after waiting till last light for a chance at a buck. My second story was way more intense, though. The same year, another one of the camp members, one of my dearest friends, arrived early with me to do some rifle hunting. It was extremely cold, and we had the wood burner cranking. I don't remember if we hunted that morning, but that's because what happened this night will always stay with me. It was around 1 a.m. in the morning. Again, our camp is deep in a ravine, and no one ever bothered us. And of course, that probably wouldn't be a good idea since we all carry and can protect ourselves. Anyhow, we were sitting in the construction trailer around 1 a.m., having a few beers and talking about the usual guy stuff that guys talk about at deer camp. When out of nowhere, a large bang on the side of the trailer happened, and the entire thing shook. Bro, I am saying it really shook. What was stranger is it came to an immediate stop as well. We were in the middle of a conversation when this happened, and the look on both our faces was freaking hilarious, but scary at the same time. We also said, what the F was that at the same time? We grabbed our guns, and I will admit, I kind of hid behind him as he slowly opened the outside door. It was dead quiet. I mean, not even a cricket was going. No wind, nothing. We slowly walked around the trailer on both sides and saw nothing. No branches, no rocks, nothing landed or smacked the trailer. We quickly went in and turned all the lights on and music. We had a rough night's sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, we skipped the morning hunt and instead investigated around the camp. And on the back of the trailer, about 6 to 7 feet up, was 2 really big mud spots on both sides of the window that we had curtains on from the inside. This window isn't small. You're looking at 4 to 5 feet wide window, plus we couldn't reach our arms up high enough to even touch the mud marks. We stared at it for a good bit and really didn't know what to say. I shared the story about the one I mentioned above to him, and we definitely got the chills. To this day, we have no idea what could have done that. And I will say that the trailer was there for a few years at this time, and the tires were sunk into the earth and flat. And the cement blocks as well had sunk from the weight of the trailer over the years, so whatever it was had to be crazy strong to move it. Those 4 to 5 seconds of the entire trailer shaking back and forth and then coming to an immediate stop will be etched into my mind forever. Oh my God, no doubt. Sorry to make these 2 stories so long, but I don't tell them too often, so I was long-winded a bit. I guess I could have said one time we heard weird knocks and a second time a trailer shook for no apparent reason, but what fun would that have been? Well, let me know if interested in seeing the pics. And if you want me to share some of the other stories. Mike from Western Pennsylvania. Yep, I'll guarantee you that people want to see and hear, man. So send away. If you're still hanging out here with us, please do send away, Mike. And appreciate that email, man. Well written. You put us right there. And you know what it was. You know what it was. All right, I'm going to read one more, all right? I better go out and find Sarah and make sure she's not getting baked by the sun too badly. No topic, title on this email. My name is Jason. I live in Kentucky. I've been an avid outdoorsman all my life, and I take it very seriously. I spend the majority of my fall bow hunting white-tailed deer in Kentucky and Ohio. I have access to a cabin in southeastern Ohio within very close proximity to several thousand acres of public ground in the foothills of the Appalachian Mountain Range. My first year hunting there was in 2015. It was the first week in November, and I was there to hunt for 2 weeks. I took the first couple days to scout and located a buck that was living in a privately owned cornfield bordering the public property line, and was trying to find a way to gain access to the area to hunt him. The closest parking access was over a mile away. I could not get in contact with the owner of the cut cornfield, so I asked a neighboring property owner for access to the public through his piece of property. He was an older gentleman and seemed reluctant at first, but he gave me permission, told me where I could park, and the easiest path for access. I went in, hung a tree stand, and came back to the hunt the next morning. I went in about an hour before daylight, slowly making my way up the hill to the shelf that I was going to hunt on. And when I reached the shelf, I stopped for a few minutes to catch my breath. I started down the shelf towards my stand, with the wind in my face going at a steady pace. When I reached my tree stand, I climbed up, settled in, and sat in the dark, waiting for shooting light. I started hearing something walking behind me. As the sun started to rise, I kept looking in the direction where I heard the noise, but saw nothing. I kept watching in that direction because whatever I heard was close, within 50 yards, I would guess. And after about 10 minutes, I caught movement between 2 large pine trees, about 45 yards off my left shoulder. I got my binos out and could make out what looked like a shoulder and a bicep covered in dark brown long hair. I was froze and in disbelief. I put the binos down, then back up, and I could see it plain as day. Then it stepped into the gap between 2 trees. It stood approximately 7 feet tall, standing upright, and was staring right at me. I did not know what to do or what was going on, and every hair on my body was on end. I just kept looking at it, and I was in complete shock. When it started slowly walking backwards, then it started slowly walking backwards until its head disappeared behind the edge of the hill that I could see into a deep drainage ditch. Could see it or couldn't. The first thing I thought was bear when I stepped out, but I could with my binos see his hand. It had a thumb and fingers with dark fingernails. I could make it all out through the binoculars. I gathered all my gear and climbed down. I did not want to walk the way the thing went, so I walked straight down the hill through the cornfield and to the road. I walked about a quarter mile to the driveway where my truck was parked, and the landowner was out on his front porch. He asked if I'd gotten a deer, as I was still a nervous wreck, and told him no. At this point, I was still pretty shaken and arguing with myself mentally over what I'd seen. The man, whose name I will not mention, asked if I was okay and if something had happened. I told him what happened. He said, just calm down, and asked where I saw it. And I told him where, and he said, yeah, there's a spring there. And did you see any tracks? My exact words were, hell no, I got out of there and I wasn't about to go looking for the effing thing. He said, well, do me a favor and don't make a big deal out of it. We don't need that around here. That statement kind of pissed me off as I was an emotional disaster anyway, and very on edge. Before I could say anything, he said, son, what you saw is real, and I've seen it more than once over the years, and so have others. It's as real as you or me. He said it's not out to hurt anything or anybody, he said, but they like to watch. I said, do you see this effing thing all the time? He said, no. I lived here for over 30 years and I've seen it 3 times, and I don't bother it, and it don't bother me. He said that within a few feet of where I saw it, there was a good spring, and that he had seen it there once himself and had found tracks there as well. He said that the people who live around here have seen it, and that it doesn't do any good to tell people because unless they have seen it, they won't believe you. He said, I guarantee you, one thing you will not see... Sorry. He said, I guarantee you one thing you will not see it there again for a long while. Okay, there's no punctuation, you guys, so bear with me. I'm going to read that one more time. He said, I guarantee you one thing, you will not see it there again for a long while. Just go up there and hunt. Get your deer, because there are plenty of them. I went back to the cabin and spent the rest of the day and the next day reflecting on the experience. I saw it on Monday, and on Wednesday evening I returned to my stand and killed the buck. I set out to hunt. I go up there every season now, and I always hunt that location at least once, and I've never seen it again. I still don't know what to make of it, but I refuse to live in fear and never go in the woods anywhere now without my 44 mag and a variable zoom Nikon camera. Attached is a pic of the buck that I took on that trip. Wow, that's a beauty buck. That is a cranker. Beauty buck. And that is quite the frickin' story and experience, man. And for all you out there, you imagine that? You imagine being that guy? And then just blatantly spitting out at the owner what you saw, and he throws back at you, yeah, it's there. Don't worry about it. Could you imagine? Yeah, don't worry about it. It won't do anything to you. Oh, okay. Right? Said probably hardly anybody. But there you go. Now the community, they knows exactly what's going on to a point. Meaning they know that they are very real and they are there. When? Who knows? Why so seldom? Who knows? Crazy, right? Crazy but not crazy. We're more crazy maybe at this stage of the game. But anyway, there you go, you guys. Shared. And I'll be back sooner than later. Get your experiences into the people, all right? And your truth, your honest truth. Share my story at howtohunt.com. Get it? Get it off your chest. It's 2025. Let's get it all out this year. I'll be back later.